Look how far we've come, all the things we've done. Did it all with love, beauty from the bottom up. All I want is you, you're my favorite view. But there's nothing new, girl, you make my heart beat.
And we are back.
We are back, Bumble Bitches.
Doing the Friday episodes.
We are.
No emails today.
No.
I don't know when this is going to air. I don't know how this is going to go. We're testing new things for season 3. So far, I feel like the episodes that we've done that were not email based went really well. And today we're going to just try to do some articles and have discussions and see how that pans over. Articles that we are reading today is coming from medium.com. This is a website that it appears to be nothing more than a blogging site where people can create their own articles and leave their own opinion pieces up. I found some data while I was writing my book off of one of these websites, which is how I found this website. And because I needed the data that was in the article, I paid for the website for the year, and now I'm getting emails. And one of the emails today said the case for intellectual loneliness. And I was like, that sounds like a great read. Let's read it. It wasn't. Spoiler alert, fuck this.
Yeah.
But I think that it would be a good thing for us because people read this shit and they relate to it.
Right.
Or they don't. And we may relate, or one of us may relate and one may not. And we're going to have fun and see how this plays out.
All right.
Have anything you want to talk about before we jump into this?
The only thing I want to touch on is, so this is the case for intellectual loneliness. One of the 4 most important intimacies is intellectual intimacy. So I'm excited to see where this goes and pray I'm not disappointed.
Yeah, I have a feeling that we're going to end up in a conversation about loneliness at the end of this as well.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
So this is I don't want to name the people who wrote this. I'm just going to say that it came from medium.com, and if you guys want to look it up you can. But I don't want to promote anyone except for tobefocused.com. For those of you who are new to what we do, Peaches and I have teamed up with Mike and Katie from Primal Focus and Force of Focus, and we are creating a coaching mentoring program that is developed to help people become a better version of themselves, make more money, become a better husband, better wife, build businesses, build brands.
Better parents.
Better parents, all of it. We are putting together 12-week programs. You can find all of that information over on tobefocused.com or on the To Be Focused YouTube. And if TikTok still exists by the time this comes out, it'll be on TikTok as well.
I can't wait for this endeavor.
It's starting. We're putting the final touches together now. We're recording this on December 9th. So we're more than a month ahead of recordings, which is why we get to sponsor our own show today.
Yeah.
Yep.
How exciting. All right, just getting into it.
Let's just jump in.
I recently had lunch with a dear friend, one of those friends that you start with the obligatory "what's new since I last saw you" 4 years ago. And you quickly digress into the suffocating loneliness we both feel as women over 30. She aptly summed it up. You are the total of those who surround you. I am the sum of a 50-year-old man and a 10-year-old boy.
Okay, let's pause. A couple things real quick. I do want to address that.
Okay.
I think that when we do things like this, we should do the paragraph and pause.
Okay.
And if there's things that we want to talk about in the paragraph, we can. And if not, we can just move on.
Okay.
That way I don't have to say pause. You don't have to pause. Like we can.
Right.
All right. Go. What do you got on that paragraph?
You mean the sum of your family? You're not the sum of a 50-year-old man and a 10-year-old boy. These are supposed to be the things that are watering and nourishing you and supporting you, and vice versa. I almost said likewise.
Right.
Vice versa is the better phrasing in that sentence.
Yeah. This is the family you chose.
Yeah. I think devaluing your family to I am the sum of a 50-year-old man and a 10-year-old boy. So you've completely lost who you are. Probably no self-care happening. I don't think this is a 50-year-old man and a 10-year-old boy problem. I think this is a you've lost who you are as a woman problem.
I agree. I want to point out that when I sit down with people that I haven't seen in 5 to 10 years, a year or 2 years, we don't end up having discussions that quickly digress into the suffocating loneliness that we both feel.
Yeah, that's very depressing.
I understand that they wrote as women, and I'm not a woman, so that I can't.
Yeah.
But I don't, that's not a thing.
Right.
I want to celebrate your victories. I want to know how your kids are doing. I want to know how work is going. Is your business thriving? We're not talking about, oh, I'm so fucking lonely. That says everything that I need to know about both of the people in this article. Granted, it's called loneliness, It's called intellectual loneliness. I also do understand what depression looks like and what it feels like. And I understand the need for us to have people in our lives to connect to and talk to and
stimulate our brains.
Right. There's a whole lot of in our DNA that is necessary for. And we'll get into that at the end of the thing. Cause I think, I'll just say it now. I think, anxiety is our bodies throwing alerts.
Oh yeah. Alarm system.
Right. The check engine light's on. Something's happening right now. Like we need to really pay attention to whatever's happening right now. I think that loneliness is an alert. It's an indication of I'm not being fulfilled. It's an indication of I'm probably going to die alone. Nobody understands me. Depression is on its way, right? Like I think that loneliness, that feeling of being abandoned or alone is an alert just like anxiety is. And it's opinion. But I feel that way because every time I start to feel alone in life and we've had conversations where I'm fucking lonely, it always comes down to I don't have anybody that I can connect to. There's no conversations there. There's something missing in my life that's not being fulfilled. And it's normally bromance shit.
I was to say, can you elaborate? Because it makes it sound like I'm sucking as your wife.
No, it means that like I need to be able to like flick boogers and talk shit. The 12-year-old me needs to be able to like call somebody a bitch because they suck at Madden. Like I don't even play Madden, but like that.
Yeah.
That matters to me. When Sean and I work out together in the gym, like there's male shit talking that happens in there and that fills my cup. There's I know it's different for women. I know that you guys don't have the bickering the way that we do. Your bickering looks very different than ours, but we have a lot of competition and shit talking, and it's not about gossiping about other people and spilling the tea. It's a camaraderie, and it makes me feel good when I'm done because I either won or I lost. And if I lost, it means I need to work on it next week. And like before I got injured and I hadn't torn my titty yet, if anybody even got close to the weights that I was lifting, it was game on.
Right.
Like I wanted to just fucking destroy everyone in the gym, and that healthy competition mattered to me. And that's a whole other thing. Like I didn't want to be outworked by anyone, physically, mentally, whatever. I want to read more books than you. I want to work harder. I want to make more money. I want to. I as a man, I think that I measure myself to other men. And if I have other males that I don't respect as a man, I don't get that same validation. So that's the elaboration. Did that help?
Yes.
Okay. I 100% believe that we need to have that same sex. Maybe it's just a man thing. I don't know, but I need that camaraderie.
No, I agree with all of that. I crave feminine energies in my life. I love you. I love you to death. Sometimes I just need some silk.
Right. So it is this. You do get it then. You understand what I was trying to say.
Definitely.
The words aren't coming to me right now.
When say I'm having a really hard day and I come to you to talk about it, I'm gonna get my husband's reaction.
Right.
I'm not gonna get a girlfriend's reaction or response. I'm gonna get my husband's response. And I said this on the group call the other day that when I go to you with certain things, so I have stopped having expectations of what your response is going to be when I come to you about something. Because in my mind, I'm building you up as this overly emotional, oh my God, babe, I can't believe that happened. Let me brush your hair and wipe your tears off your face, and you whip out a magic hanky and all these other kinds of things. And in reality, it's going to be, babe, I'm sorry that's happening. What can I do for you?
Right.
It's not this romanticized Fabio, you're going to carry me across a running riverbed to safety, whatever. And if I need that overly dramatic, I do need that sometimes.
Right.
I need that. I need a woman's reaction or response. I need to know that I'm not the only one who wants to scream about this or burn things down. Yeah, I need the...
And that speaks to community.
Yeah.
Right? If you had a clan or a tribe or a really big family, you are going to have all the women doing all the women shit and all the men doing all the men shit.
And I don't want to be in your way. Don't
Right.
get in my way either. Yeah.
I think that's normal. And
I agree.
I think that somewhere along the lines, we have made it not normal. It's not
because
okay.
of selfishness.
It's not okay to have the division and to separate into two different groups and fucking do the fun things. You know, if you look at a barbecue on the TV prior to like the year 2000, it's always the women sitting with the women and the men standing around the grill. You know, there was even a phrase at one point that he who holds the grill is king or some shit like that, because you are the provider of the party at that point. And I think a lot of that's changed because the narrative has changed. And I think the narrative has changed because we don't fucking do shit with people anymore.
No.
The houses have gotten bigger and the families have gotten smaller. Extended family has moved on. Like, there's no reason for us to have that communal life. Everything has become easy. And if everything got really fucking hard again, those big houses would be full of family and people would be working and living as a community out of necessity.
Yep.
So, anyways.
Back into it.
Yeah.
We lamented over the lack of culture, magic, connection, and overall challenge in our lives. We also noted we can't be the only ones.
Bitch sessions.
Yeah.
That's what that was. Okay.
Group wailings.
You know, you never did that in Thailand.
No, I know, yeah. I recognize that where we were at in the resort really wasn't an option.
Could have done it in the water.
Like at the beach or something?
While you were in the water. You guys could have put on your little life vests, kicked your feet
Oh,
up,
dang, you right.
got in like a reclining
And just went,
position and
"Ha!"
just screamed. Missed opportunity.
You're right. Next time, though, I don't care if we're in the middle of 41.
Well, you might be in a jungle in Costa Rica. You might be able to do a jungle whale. Live that bog witch life.
Gosh.
There are still slots available for Costa Rica 2.0. If you guys want to go to Costa Rica with us, click the link in the bio.
Let's do that group wailing.
Yeah.
Wailing. I'm so excited I can't even speak.
It's funny.
Okay, continuing on. We're both the type of women who are a little too intense for most. The ones that will likely take our boss's job, up before dawn and in bed too late, taking advantage of every waking moment of daylight and moonlight our lives can offer. Anything?
I hate everything about that paragraph.
Yeah. I don't feel like... I think we're a little too intense for most as an ego stroke.
Absolutely. So we're the ones that are most likely to take our boss's jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost closed the article. When I read this earlier, I almost closed the article over that.
Yeah.
There's a difference between arrogance and confidence.
Yeah.
This is arrogance.
I agree with that
Okay.
statement. I agree with that. When I think of if somebody is too intense for me, I don't like you. You're overstimulating to me. You're overwhelming. You're yelling. You're over animated. There's something going on that I don't want to be around you because intense, I would say 7 out of 10 times I don't want to be around it. High stress,
too much.
high energy. That's a lot for me.
There's time and place for that, like camping.
That was good. That was good. It took me a second. That was good. Continuing?
Yeah.
Okay. We both have big city jobs, the ones that require a lot of travel, meeting at all times of the day, and an immense amount of problem solving. Both of us also live in small towns and commute only when necessary. What? The ones that require a lot of travel, meetings all times of the day, but we also live in a small town and commute only when necessary. So I'm confused.
Sounds like they live in a suburb but work in a city and only go to the office when they absolutely have to.
So then what's that travel? Like, are you leaving the state?
I mean, it could be,
Okay.
but that would be only if they have to kind of thing.
Yeah.
But she did say it requires a lot of travel.
But then in the next sentence, only commute when necessary. I'm confused. No,
Well, commute and travel would be, I guess, different. Travel would be, I would view that as leaving your city, and commuting would be going to and from work. How about that?
Okay.
Okay.
Continuing on, leaving behind the quiet hum of our communities for better coffee, $20 salads, and a day spent without the freedom of stretchy pants. However, it wasn't always like this. There was a time that I lived in a city, one of those tough, gritty kinds of cities that requires a lot of energy to live in. A city where you never know what you're going to run into, what you're going to see, or what you're going to do later to have to try to forget. Or what you're going to later. What? A city where you never know what you're going to run into, what you're going to see, or what you're going to later have to try to forget. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah. Say you were walking down the street and you saw somebody taking a shit on the side of the road. That's something you're going to have to try to forget later.
Or what you're going to later have to try to forget. Whatever. Then.
Before you move on, we didn't stop at the other paragraph.
Oh.
We both have big city jobs, ones that require a lot of travel, meetings at all times of the day, and an immense amount of problem solving. Both of us also live in small towns and commute only when necessary. leaving behind the quiet hum of our communities for better coffee, $20 salads, and a day spent without the freedom of stretchy pants. That also sounds very like we're important. Like we get to leave our small communities and go to the big city and spend $20 on coffee and our overpriced salads because we're important.
Yeah.
That's how that read to me. Okay.
I get that. Continuing on.
Yep. I'm a judgmental fucker.
I appreciate it about you. Continuing, this toil, as I called it, drained me. I craved a place where I wouldn't be washing my car and have some neighbor walk by and murmur, "You want to wash mine too?" I wanted peace. I wanted to be disturbed only by my own terms, or only on my own terms.
That's the dad joke. Mine's next. You're just being polite talking to your neighbor.
Yeah.
They clearly don't want you to come wash their car.
Yeah.
This is why people don't talk to each other anymore.
Well, weren't you just complaining about feeling lonely?
Right. There's a chance to connect.
And you shit on it.
Right. There absolutely was a chance to connect to your neighbor right there.
I would have hit him with, "I'll do it for free, but I expect a $100 tip."
Yeah. I'll get yours this time. You got mine next week, Charles. Like, love those New Balances, homie. You know what I mean? Like, you
Right.
really could take that opportunity to talk to your neighbor. Instead, we're like, "Fucking talk to me, you stupid
The
fucking
audacity.
piece of shit. Just let me alone, wash my car." It's perception.
It
It
is
is the way that
perception.
you perceive the environment around you.
Yeah.
It takes zero effort to simply smile and say, "Ha, next time, good joke." Whatever.
Stop calling my dad. Because of the dad joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Continuing on.
Yeah.
So during the pandemic, I chose to move back to my hometown. It's here where I wake up to sunrises and sip wine while the sun sets. I have quiet neighbors, a river running through my property, and more space than I know what to do with. I can breathe.
Must be nice. That sounds like a great life.
It does.
Right? Like, and that wasn't me saying must be nice that you got that shit.
No,
Like
that's a goal for me.
that sounds like the dream.
Yeah.
You get to watch the sunrise and set from your front porch. You got a fucking river on your property.
No
You
one
got
talking to
land, gun range, quads, like side by sides in the mud. Like, pff, let's go.
Yep.
That sounds like a win. Starlink so that you can continue to work remotely in the big city jobs that you don't
Yep.
want to commute to.
Continuing on.
Yep.
However, like a lot of those who come to the Great Escape, I am now reconsidering my move. I love a lot of things about this life, but being here also makes me wilt. As someone who studies culture for a living, where I live is bluntly without culture. Lacking big ideas, challenging art, good food, and interesting conversation. Okay, I'm going to continue reading. It feels like a deserted island of chain restaurants, big box stores, and cookie cutter homes. Essayist Paul Graham says that you can tell a lot about a city by the conversations you hear.
Okay. You want to break that paragraph down? Because you paused.
I did, because lacking big ideas. So she listed 4 things: lacking big ideas, challenging art, good food, and interesting conversations. Challenging art is the only thing that I can see is like, yeah, that sucks. Everything else is about who you surround yourself with.
Right. Well, lacking big ideas, good food, interesting conversations, and the whole comment about lack of culture, it doesn't matter where you go, there's history.
Right.
And that is the culture. If you're in the Appalachians, the culture of the people there is very different than it is in the big city. It doesn't mean that there's a lack of culture. It means that you're not in it.
Right. Or you haven't delved into it yet.
Right. You get it, anybody that's ever lived in like a podunk town, you know about bonfires in the fucking woods.
Yep.
You know about them cousins that fucking make their own shine, and like the holidays are a big fucking deal, and you know what the family reunions feel like.
Yep. Harvest festivals.
Right. There's a whole lot that goes into those communities. Just because you have not been invited to the culture yet,
Or gone out on your own to seek it.
right, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It just means that you're not there. You've got that I'm a big city girl, and you're looking down on that slow town living. There's a lot of people who don't want anything to do with those big cities,
I
and they're
hate 'em.
perfectly happy with that little bit of culture. I love small town living. That the town that we're in now is getting to be too big for me.
Yeah. I second that.
So,
Yeah.
but I am also Appalachian American. My family's from Virginia's in Tennessee. Like that's where my people come from. I know that that's who we are, and I know what that living looks like. If you've never done high speeds down a dirt road, like,
You're missing out.
right? Like there's a whole lot of teenage shit that happens
Yep.
that becomes a part of your wild youth, going up in the mountains and disappearing for a few days. And like, I get it. You haven't got to experience that. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And there is also art in those communities. It just looks different. So you find somebody that's repurposing antique furniture and tell me that's not art.
Metalworking is insane to see. A lot of people do that in the mountains.
Right. And don't even fucking get me started on the food.
Oh, right. Shut up. Like, no good food. Are you just cooking for yourself at this point?
Yeah, you hit any mom and pop restaurant in the South that's clean, and you got like real food.
Yep. I want to make biscuits and gravy for dinner now.
I take that food thing personal.
Me too.
I really did. Like,
Yeah. And cultured swine. Don't insult us
you
like
hear
that.
that bus?
Right on time. Pulling a lemony snicket there. Count Olaf, that was his name.
Yep.
Parking him on the train tracks. That whole scene where he's in the gas station, goofing off, waiting for that train to hit the cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jim Carrey's an awesome actor.
She said it feels like, I got to be honest, I know that you watched that movie the other day and I only half paid attention to it.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you anything other than the whole pirate thing, the leg.
Yeah, the
That was
peg
the
leg
only
one.
thing that stuck with me.
Yeah.
The whole, it feels like a deserted island of chain restaurants and big box stores and cookie cutter homes. That's not what small town living looks like.
Yeah, where are you at? When I look at small town living and driving through the mountains, every single house looks different.
They're old.
Right. Been there for at least 2 generations.
Yep.
Some of them you can tell they've been there for 4 or 5. Are you reading on?
No, I'm hung up on the food aspect of it all because it doesn't matter where you go on vacation down here. Like you find real food. There's mom and pop places everywhere. There are towns in Florida where there is no fast food. It's not common, but there are. And there are definitely places in Tennessee where you can be in an entire little town and it has a single fast food place.
Yep.
You're more likely to get shitty food at a gas station than you are at the fast food place. But like there's mom and pop restaurants that are open for breakfast and lunch or just open for dinner. And those are the ones where like you've got real family cooked, like, they're picking their shit up from the next city over from
Great
Costco
grandma's
and,
recipes and
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't tell me that there's no good food in a small town. I will call you wrong on that. Unless you live in like the one-off where just every store is closed because it's poor as fuck and no one can afford to be there. But
The quality of eavesdropping here is abysmal. It seems that everyone just wants to talk about their air fryers.
go ahead. I ain't got nothing on this one.
So I read up to that point and I stopped because I took that shit personal. I really did.
You like your air fryer.
I love my air fryer so much to the point that the kids are now becoming obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is so cool. Makes cooking easy for me too. Preheats in 4 minutes
Yeah.
versus our oven that takes 10 or 15 minutes. It's fantastic. The quality of eavesdropping here is abysmal, so you just want to gossip.
Well, the essayist Paul Graham says that you can tell a lot about city by the conversations you hear. So she's going out intentionally listening to other people's conversations to determine how she feels about the city because of this other essayist. That's how I took that.
You know what I get away? It seems everyone just wants to talk about their air fryers. I'm a woman who enjoys talking about her air fryer. You know what I do with that air fryer? I provide for my family. I cook. I'm finding new recipes. I have a plethora of other things in my kitchen that I enjoy using. My deep fryer is fantastic. Have a dehydrator that I'm looking to start using here pretty soon. I don't know what the problem is with being content of, right? It seems everyone just wants to talk about their air fryers. I don't hear men talking about air fryers, right? So I'm taking that as a more geared towards women kind of thing. What's wrong with being happy over the fact that we have a cool new gadget that we can use that makes our lives easier in the grand scheme of what we're doing?
Here's a better question. This is called intellectual loneliness.
Right.
These women who are sitting around talking about their air fryers, they're not lonely.
No, they're not.
So they might not be on your intellectual level because they're having conversations about food and air fryers and the thing that they enjoy, but they are happy.
Yep.
And you're eavesdropping and lonely and miserable because of it. So instead of realizing like you think that you're above them, Knock yourself down a peg, lose your fucking ego and arrogance, and engage somebody in a conversation. You could be sitting next to a real, like, intellectual, philosopher-style person who's read thousands of books in their lives, maybe was a professor somewhere, that now has a fulfilling life homesteading. And that's where her passion is. And she could probably talk to you about things you've never even fucking thought about. But because her passion right now is canning and homesteading and goats and air fryers, you think that she's less than you.
Yep.
What does that say about your ego? I wouldn't want to interact with people like that.
Oh, God, no. No.
Do you think because you like to talk about your homesteading shit and your tinctures and your herbalism that the other facets that makes peaches is less interesting?
No.
I don't think so either. I've heard you I've heard you say shit to our 5-year-old, and I'm like, what the fuck? Where did that come from? Like, slow down.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for that at 6 o'clock in the morning, right? Like,
Right.
but you like your air fryer, therefore you're dumb.
It fries things, and I like that.
I made a pizza in it last night.
Got no more potatoes. Yeah.
I know I'm an asshole,
Yeah.
right? Like I know that I am. But I'm not arrogant.
No.
And I know that anybody can teach me something.
Mm-hmm.
Kids have said some shit. Like our little kids have said some shit that made me step back and be like, oh damn.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yep.
I'm listening and I'm aware and I know that I don't know everything. And I'm certainly not better than anyone.
Right. There have been so many times where I'm having a conversation with the children. They hit me with something and I stop what I'm doing. Like I could be hunched over picking up something off their table and I'm just stuck like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I'm like, dang. What did you just...
Right.
You're not wrong, but can you just repeat that for me one more time, my 5-year-old child?
Right.
It's insane. Continuing on.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time and energy willing this place into a different light. Maybe if I looked at it a certain way, I'd notice a glint of something interesting that I hadn't noticed before. Maybe if I met the right crowd of people, I'd feel like I found my place.
Well, how are you going to meet that crowd of people if you're not willing to talk to them because they're having conversations about air fryers and you find that boring?
Or less than.
Right. If someone's passionate about something, don't you enjoy those conversations?
Oh, I love it.
They're happy.
Yeah.
Like that's infectious. I don't care about this at all, but you're happy and I fucking love that. Keep talking. Right? Like that's, I don't know. I don't understand why. I guess I just don't get it.
You know what show I love watching?
Superman and Lois.
Yes. Yes. How It's Made.
Yeah.
I am never gonna ever have knowing how a grand piano's made does not impact my life. Did I enjoy watching that 25-minute episode plus 30 minutes of commercials? Yes.
Thank God we have fucking streaming services now.
Right? Continuing on.
Yeah.
And please don't mistake my definition of culture as something hyflatuan.
I gotta Google that.
Flauschen.
Is an informal adjective that means pretentious or pompous or trying to seem important or superior without good reason. No, you did
Oh,
that.
homie, you did that.
You absolutely did that.
You nailed that.
Yep.
You 100% nailed that highflatuan, highflutin,
Highfalutin?
high glucose.
Oh, this podcast is not for you, lady.
No.
We're not intellectual enough for you to be here.
I am not looking for the shoppy shop aesthetic, the $8 drip coffee, or the $20 4-ounce glass of wine.
Well, no, she's looking for the $20 coffee.
The better coffee,
$20
salads.
salads. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, you're right. $20 salads. So $8 coffee is not on the agenda.
I mean, all of those are nice, but none of these make for culture. I want a library with interesting talks on beekeeping, a greasy spoon diner with ripped red vinyl benches, and a surly waitress. A hole in the wall bar filled with all walks of life serving cheap pints of Miller High Life. Did you not visit this town before you moved here?
Right.
Like, did you not know what you were getting yourself into? Was this a manic move? I don't understand how... I don't understand. I am such a research-oriented... I'm making diagrams and pie charts, and I'm looking at key demographics and shit. Like,
she literally said that she was having a problem with small town America. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not what she literally said, but that was the conversation.
right.
Everything she just described is small town America, except
Yeah.
for libraries are becoming a dying thing.
Yeah.
Because of the internet and because of the communities on Facebook. And how can you not find conversations about beekeeping if you live in a small town? Somebody there is keeping bees.
Oh, 100%.
A greasy spoon diner with ripped red vinyl benches.
You mean Denny's?
I mean, I was thinking a small mom and pop place that
Yeah.
still sells you Coke out of those fucking frosted red cups that have been there since the 80s.
Yeah.
And a hole in the wall bar filled with all walks of life serving cheap pints of Miller Lite. But what if they're talking about air fryers?
Right.
What? Then what?
Find another thing to be upset about? I guess I'm just not a careless person.
What do you mean?
She wants a library and all of these other things. You chose this place to move to. If these were all things that are necessary to you for you to be happy in the community that you're living in, why was your due diligence not done?
I don't understand how any of this has anything to do with intellectual loneliness.
I have
either.
no idea either.
She wants a library with interesting talks on beekeeping. I got to be honest, I've never been to a speech at a library. Like at one point I was curious about the local fauna, like the local shit that we can eat that grows in Florida in case there was ever an emergency. I can identify plants that I can just walk and eat. And like, I know which plants in Florida have caffeine in them, right? Because that's important.
Of course.
You know, if you're walking 20 miles a day, you want to be caffeinated, and energy drinks won't be a thing. So like, I did this little thing, and it was called Eat the Weeds. If you live in Southwest Florida, Google it. Eat the Weeds is a thing. You can fucking go on a walking thing with a guy who is very versed in Florida edible plants. And you learn from it. I wouldn't have learned that from a library. If they're going to show me pictures of the plant, I'm not going to remember that. I want to pick it up and eat it right then and there. Like, oh, that's sea grape.
Lemongrass or whatever.
Like I can eat that. Cool. Let me try it. If I'm looking to learn something new, the library is literally the last place I would think to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to
People.
I'm going to YouTube first, and then I'm going to find local communities that do that because they've already made the mistakes. And when I start doing it and I start making mistakes, I'll have people I can call and be like, hey, this is a thing. Is this normal? No, right. I have too much moisture. Okay, cool. Right? Like, whatever. Having that community makes you not lonely. You all have a similar goal, shared hobbies. You have something to talk about other than air fryers.
Yep.
Okay, go on.
Continuing on.
Yeah.
Paul Graham's essay, Cities and Ambitions, explores the underlying tone that cities emanate.
She's obviously a fan of this dude because it's twice that she's name dropped him.
Yeah. This is what attracts people to an area. New York is about making money. LA is about fame. Cambridge, intellect. My hometown, unfortunately, does not emanate power or intellect. Not fame or success either. Then why did you move back?
Because people want to get away from the big cities.
Yeah, I
they
really
want that
feel like
quiet home life.
I feel like this was a manic decision.
Yeah?
Yeah. Maybe shit was going wrong in life. There were too many loose ends. I don't know how to pick these chainsaws back up to keep juggling. I'm just going to go back to my default. And now, because that was a manic decision, there's regret. This was not the solution to whatever was happening internally.
That's the American dream, though. That's marketing at its finest. Look at this barn dominium that Facebook has heard you talking about. So now it's on your feed. Oh, and you wanted land? Check out this barn dominium that's on 10 acres. Oh, you want it cheap? Check out this barn dominium on 12 acres in Alabama for $150,000. Right. So now you're like, oh shit, that checks all the boxes. They sold me. I have this idea of having the homestead life and how great my barn dominium is going to be. And I could have a gym and a t-shirt printing thing and all my motorcycles inside and, side by sides and the kids can go mudding and we can homeschool. And then you get there and you realize you're 45 minutes away from the closest gas station, an hour and a half away from the fucking closest store. You don't have internet. The land's not properly cleared. There's work to be done every single day on property.
Gas.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, wait, I didn't sign up for this. No, you didn't do your research.
Right.
You bought a dream without doing the work. I believe the side-by-side and quad industry, like buying power sport toys, quads, Sea-Doos, fucking boats, that's all the same thing. People buy boats and use them less than twice a year on average.
Wow.
That's why so many boats go on the secondhand market for sale, and why yacht clubs make money. Because people would, if you can rent the boat, you're likely to use it a little bit more because you don't have to maintain it.
Right.
You don't have to clean it, nothing. And I looked in all this because we were going to buy a boat.
Yeah.
After Thailand, because Thailand was amazing, but it doesn't make sense to do that.
Just rent a boat.
We're trying to buy the dream, but we can rent the boat, have the day, and that's enough.
It's the same thing.
Right. But when we go to the place and we're like, look at this cool one, this one looks really cool. This one's got fucking speakers in the seats. Like, we're going to be going on the boat and we can feel the bass hit. Like, you are literally creating scenarios in your brain that you're trying to fulfill by purchasing these items. This is no different.
Yep.
Let me sell you the dream that you think you need.
Continuing on.
Sure.
Its siren call can only be likened to something along the lines of, we don't believe we deserve better.
Wait, can you start that over? Because I feel like I've obviously lost where we were.
Okay. My hometown, unfortunately, does not emanate power or intellect, not fame or success. Its siren call can only be likened to something along the lines of, we don't believe we deserve better. This looks like an absurd amount of Tim Hortons, the keg for special occasions, 5 burrito fast food chains within 1 kilometer. Its siren call can only be likened to something along the lines of, we don't believe we deserve better. I'm glad I don't live in her hometown. I'd be taking all of this shit super personal.
I would take that personal too.
Super personal. People are building their families here, building roots here, watching their children grow up and make amazing memories.
Keeping a community.
Keeping a community.
You know, the average people in America don't know their neighbor's name.
Yep.
With the amount of moving, because people rent more than, like, a lot of people rent, you know your neighbor's face, but unless you've actually, like, gone to talk to them, you don't get their names. People don't bring over casseroles. There's not like a let's get to know each other.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Right. If you have a quiet neighbor and they're not making any noise, there's no reason for you to talk to them. We've made jokes about the neighbors waved at me today. It's time to move. Like, it's a meme. People don't want that connection. We have made jokes about actually distancing ourselves. She's wanting an intimate connection with people that have intelligence, but she doesn't want to talk to anyone.
Because she thinks that everybody in her hometown's below her.
Yeah. This is a superiority complex. Look how fucking important I am with my big city job and my $8 drip coffee and $20 salad.
Continuing on.
But she said she wants the other things, like the small town diners and a fucking bar that sells cheap pints. So what is it that you want? Do you want to knock yourself and you bring your ego down a peg and realize that you're a human being like everyone else in your town and that people just want to be happy and fucking have conversations and not feel alone? Or do you want to keep that air of superiority, look down your fucking nose at everyone and then bitch that you don't have anybody to talk to because you think you're elevated?
Yeah. Continuing on.
Yep.
However, what's worse than 5 burrito chains is living in one of the neighboring towns, the we are better towns, where their identity is summed up by achieving more than their downtrodden neighbors. If you're a Parks and Recs fan, the Eagletonians to the Pawnees. Pawneans. I know that they come from Pawnee, right? I used to watch Parks and Rec.
I've never watched a single episode.
It's like a high school, we're going to go over there and steal their mascot and they have to come back here and get it from us kind of thing. A superiority. Exactly what she's doing to her own hometown right now. Yeah. Unfortunately, this we are better rhetoric manifests as higher real estate prices, cafes serving pretentiously sour coffee, countless restaurants sporting the millennial aesthetic, and a collection of people that all look like they've been styled by an influencer peddling Amazon outfits. Little do they know, they are even less interesting than those they snub their noses at.
That sentence after all of this is why I sent you this article.
Really? Yeah.
Tell me that's not what she's done this entire...
That's exactly what she's done this whole email.
Yeah,
I mean, not the whole email, article.
Yeah, article. Yeah, I said email too. Article.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit if it has a millennial aesthetic? Or even a hipster vibe? Or a retro Nintendo nerd thing? People have passions. Mm-hmm. I have no problem hanging out at a millennial bar. Or going to a fucking nerd cafe. Or a fucking hipster coffee shop. Or a hipster barber shop. If the people there are pleasant to be around and they make me feel like I'm wanted and like valued as a customer, that's what matters to me. I can deal with subpar coffee for a good experience.
Continuing on. So between the we don't deserve better and the we are better towns, I find myself looking for a new place to live. And unfortunately, it feels like there is no right answer. It is here in this conundrum that I find myself intellectually lonely. And a drought of stimulating conversation, lacking a room filled with people who are haunted by as such. Lacking a room filled with people who are haunted by as much existential dread as myself. In a drought of stimulating conversation, lacking a room filled with people who are haunted by as much existential dread as myself. So you're just looking for people to be depressed with. I don't view that as intellectual conversations. If you're looking to just have existential dread and talk about how much life sucks and all these other kinds of things, that's not intellectual conversations. That's just griping and being a victim. Did I misinterpret that improperly?
I struggled with that too. In a drought of stimulating conversation, meaning there is none.
Right.
I don't understand lacking a room filled with people who are haunted by as much existential dread as myself. So you're in a room with people who have the exact same thing and nobody's having stimulating conversations. So why are you in a room with people that doesn't have stimulating conversations? That's been your issue the entire time. Like I don't know.
That didn't make sense to me. Continuing on.
Maybe we're the lack of intellectual.
Why do you say that?
That wasn't funny at all. I wasn't laughing.
What?
Just death stared the shit out of me over that.
Well, why are we the lacking of intellectuals?
Because of the way that she worded that. That didn't make sense to either one of us. And there are people out there who are much smarter than we are that's going to be like, yeah, it totally makes sense.
Lacking a room filled with people. So lacking a room, in my mind, equates to I want a room filled with people who are haunted by as much existential dread as myself. So that she has people who she can relate to or click with or have conversations with about existential dread. Not intellectual conversations or conversations about growth or quantum physics.
Yeah, see, I took that very different. In a drought of stimulating conversations, lacking a room, meaning there is no room, there is nobody in it, there's no conversations being had. And everybody that she knows is filled with existential drought, such as herself. I could be wrong, though, or existential dread. Again, not a super intelligent person over here, so like the wordplay doesn't work for me. Zach
whole article doesn't work.
If Zach was here, he'd be able to explain that perfectly fine. I bet you that's right up his alley.
Yeah. Continuing on, don't get me wrong. I have a great group of friends, a challenging job, a good family, a connection to my community, and even a few of those hard to find friendships that fosters exceptional intimacy. But my cup does not runneth over. I want more. And then there's a little snippet from Charlie Brown that says, you look kind of lonely sitting there. And it's Snoopy saying, I guess I am, in a thought bubble.
But my cup does not runneth over. Runneth. Fill my chalice, you swine.
Oh my gosh.
Who the fuck says runneth?
I think that's just a comical point to be made.
Yeah, and I made it.
Continuing on, in Vivek Murthy's book on loneliness, Together, he presents 3 key facts of loneliness: intimate being known, communal being surrounded, and relational being connected. After reading this book, I wrote to him suggesting he is missing one: intellectual loneliness, being understood and challenged. I haven't heard back yet, but still feel it's a worthwhile addition.
What you thinking?
That intellectual intimacy falls into intimacy.
Yeah.
So she's bringing up a point that already falls into one of the other points of being intimate, being known. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, it does. I wanted... This dude has put together, or this person, I'm assuming is a guy because of the name Vivek, has put together a book that speaks specifically on 3 different types of loneliness.
But what about this?
And has actually put together the time to write a book, which takes a lot of fucking time, especially when you have to do your own research. To have somebody else read it and send you a fucking email or a letter and be like, hey, by the way, you forgot this one.
Yeah.
I'm not shocked you haven't heard back yet.
Yeah. As I was reading that, I was thinking I would probably burn that if it was mailed to me. There's a scene in BoJack Horseman where he wants to write a book. And he gets a ghostwriter because he does not have the ambition or discipline to write his own book. And the book gets written and he's reading it and he's disgusted by it because it's a reflection of who he truly is versus the image he has of him in his mind.
Ooh, that's fucking rough.
Yeah. And he throws it into a trash can and he takes out a matchbox and he lights the match and he throws it in there and he goes, "Pwah!" And nothing happens. But in my mind, if I were that dude and I got that letter, "Pwah!" Roast some s'mores over that shit.
Yeah.
If you want to write a book, write a book. Homie did his part. See, I don't know. That also rubs me the wrong way because we receive emails of, well, what about this? Or what about that? Well, that was not the topic of conversation.
I have a lot of that.
So if you would like to have that conversation, you are more than welcome to, and I can't wait to read it.
We just had a quick break. I don't remember what we were talking about before the dog went ape shit. I do want to touch on this intellectual loneliness thing. There's difference between not being able to have strong conversations with people and things that like fill your cup in terms of challenging, thought-provoking things. But you can make a choice to learn new hobbies. You could write a book. That's stimuli. Like if you're looking for something to challenge your brain and give you something that makes your brain active and works the muscle that is the brain, you have a whole lot of other things you could be doing. If you want to learn about beekeeping, you don't need to go to a library for that. You can spend hours on YouTube or reading books about beekeeping. You don't need to have the conversation with people. What you're actually lacking is that sense of community because you think you're better than everyone else. And if you think that you're better than everyone else and you think that conversations about air fryers and not having that dummied down conversations because you're not interested in those things, it's not that you need intellectual conversation. It's that you're fucking lonely because you're arrogant.
Yeah.
Your ego is preventing you from connecting to people. And she said that she's got a whole bunch of friends. I don't understand how that works. If you've got a whole bunch of friends, how are you lonely? Your friends, if they are your friends and they're able to match those needs, do you just not talk about stimulating things anymore?
Continuing on.
Yeah, but can you start here just to tie in because we ended before the final part of the thing.
After reading this book, I wrote to him suggesting he is missing one, intellectual loneliness, being understood and challenged. I haven't heard back yet, but still feel it's a worthwhile addition. As George Orwell points out in 1984, perhaps one did not want to be loved as much to be understood. To solve this drought, I thought I could bury myself in podcasts, articles, and books. And maybe, just maybe, it would satiate the itch of intellectual loneliness. But you can only consume so much content before you write a grim poem. After having just finished Consider the Lobster by David Foster Wallace, titled All My Friends Are Dead. But you only consume so much content before you write a grim poem. After just having finished Consider the Lobster by David Foster Wallace, titled All My Friends Are Dead.
So she read something.
Okay.
Made her feel bad because the title of the book is All My Friends Are Dead. Can't imagine that there's a whole lot of like feel good in that one. And then you wrote a grim poem. And because of that one instance, you feel like you're not being stimulated with podcast articles and books.
Yeah. To say that you can only consume so much content before you write a grim poem, I didn't do that. You did that.
Right.
I consumed so much, and I recognized there was such loneliness in me that I decided to write a poem titled All My Friends Are Dead. That you're not writing out everybody's future in consuming content and where it's going to lead them to. I devour books like crazy. You devour books like crazy. And we have yet to write anything that's depressing. Why are you looking at me like that?
Because I have written a lot of depressing shit in my life and none of it came from taking in things that stimulate my brain.
Right.
It comes from depression.
Right.
Loneliness, lack of community, lack of friends, people that don't love you. Like I can see where that loneliness would come in. If you are isolating and choosing to not be around people because you view them as less than you, of course you're going to be fucking lonely.
Right. And you can only consume so much content is a complete separation from you're isolating yourself from people.
Right. Well, she's using all of that as escapism.
Yeah.
The books, the articles, the podcasts, everything that she's trying to do to satiate that intellectual itch of hers or scratch that intellectual itch of hers, that does come down to her looking for escapism of her life. She's probably sitting at home on her big ass property by herself, bored as fuck.
Continuing on. So why not move? I don't know if I can outrun intellectual loneliness. Of course, I dream of more cerebral pastures, Berlin, Brooklyn, Mexico City. All places that probably have more intellect than my small town ass can fathom. But to a certain extent, solving for intellectual loneliness feels like searching for a needle in 10,000 haystacks. I think I also believe that maybe, just maybe, if I turn over enough stones, I might find the right crowd here where I am. I am a restless, flighty person who rarely puts down roots and has yet to find contentment in my life. Well, that's the problem.
But that's also very obvious.
She knows it. So
she said, if I turn over stones, I might find the right crowd here. Well, if you're not willing to talk to people about the things that they're passionate about, you're not going to find shit.
yeah.
Where's the end? I mean, where's the shared hobby? Like, you have to have something on the surface to engage with somebody. And if your neighbor going, mine's next, over their car being washed offends you, how dare you talk to me? Your air fryer's conversations are stupid. The food here sucks.
Right.
People are going to be like, you're a negative Nancy.
Yeah.
You need to go
Not that one.
not near us. Mm-hmm. But if you're like, oh, that's a cool camera.
Right.
You do photography? Right on. What do you take pictures of? Mm-hmm. And there's a passionate conversation and there's a shared interest. That's how a foundation of a friendship's built. And that person can be dumb as fuck about a whole lot of subjects, but there's going to be something that they're passionate about that you can learn from. But if you're not interested in that, does that make that conversation less intellectual because it's not something you're passionate about?
Right. That's a good point. What's to say it would be different anywhere else? When does one know when they're asking too much of this life? As a pessimistic, grass is always greener kind of girl, how do I know that moving won't deepen the sense of intellectual loneliness? The grass is always greener kind of girl. What about watering the grass you're currently standing on?
Well, she said she's a pessimist. She is a negative Nancy. She just admitted it.
Yeah, this would be a hard pass for me. In a lineup of people, like, you get to now choose your new friends, and we got a brief description, and she just hit me with, yeah, I'm a pessimist, and I think that the grass is always greener on the other side.
Yeah, next.
You seen those videos where people are popping balloons? Yeah. It will deepen your sense of intellectual loneliness if you move again. You're the problem here.
Well, she's starting over too. She's waiting for somebody else to fix her problems.
Mm-hmm. No one's coming to save you.
That's right.
Continuing on, reaffirming that is, in fact, impossible to satisfy. At least right now, there is some hope in those greener pastures. It's the everlasting switching that's a dangerous thing, not what they choose, while others actually build a life in which things gain meaning and significance. This is not true for the restless, writes Sheila Heti in How Should a Person Be? She continues with the anecdote to build on things they have begun and not abandon their plans as soon as life gets difficult. I will leave you with a quote that has tumbled around in my brain for weeks now from the essay Repair and Remain by Kurt Armstrong. Work with what you've got, sit still for a moment, take stock, make some changes, big changes if necessary.
That's it. That's the article. So this website really is just a way for people to put their blogs out there or opinion pieces and like for other people to read.
Get their feelings out.
Little did they know that I was going to stumble across this shit.
Yeah.
I some of this really like, I was like, I can't fucking believe this mindset.
Me either.
And that's why earlier I was like, I am really a judgmental asshole. Like I am judging this hard. You're blaming literally everyone else in your life for your shortcomings.
Yeah.
Your lack of connection with people is a fucking choice that you make every day because of your arrogance and your ego.
Yep.
You may be the smartest motherfucker in the room, but I bet you Jordan B. Peterson doesn't feel lonely like that.
Oh, 100%.
He knows he's intelligent. I bet he probably looks down on stupid people like, I really don't want to have this conversation with this person, but I'm willing to bet he still does it. And he probably doesn't do it from a place of fucking peasant.
It's a place of servitude.
Right. Right.
Because that's what we are. That's what I believe we as humans are meant to be here for: community and servitude to one another.
Yeah. So the loneliness thing is really what I wanted to talk about at the end of that.
Yeah.
And it's not about intellectual loneliness. I truly believe that we as a species need a community. For thousands of years, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands, depending on which thing you believe is how old humanity is, we needed a community to survive. Hunter-gatherers, like you had to have it. Without that sense of community, kids couldn't be raised. Hunting was less effective. Cooking was less effective. Healing was less effective. Winters were harder. Moving was harder. Like if you were going, nomadic and you had to move from place to place to find food, all of that shit was harder by yourself.
Defense.
You were much more likely to die alone than you were with your people. So knowing that that's a thing, and knowing that we need that sense of community, and that sense of community is not always your family.
No.
Sometimes it could be the friends groups that you build. It could be a Discord community. It could be a Facebook community. It could literally be a church community, Boy Scouts. It doesn't fucking matter. Your jiu-jitsu class. You are creating bonds with people that are able to fill a void in your life and give you attention and let you know that you're not alone. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. You start feeling lonely and depressed, it's because you're lacking a true connection to people. And the more you isolate, the worse it's going to get. And that alarm bell that's going off in our head is because we know that throughout history, if we didn't have that community, we're going to fucking die.
Right.
I didn't, I don't know. This chick could be super fucking smart and way smarter than I am. And like, this could make total sense to other people. And it may not read as condescending and I'm holier than thou, but it did to me.
I agree. It did to me as well. That air fryer comment, I 100% took that personally. That's a me problem. Also, why are you looking down on people? Right? I don't know. When I hear people talking about air fryers, they more than likely have children. They're doing the family thing. They're mothers. They're nurturers. I think devaluing that whole conversation down to, they're just talking about air fryers. Very much all right, so I see you're on your high horse there.
That air fryer could be the difference between a date night 2 or 3 nights a week.
Right.
That air fryer could be the difference of being able to have a family movie night with your kids. That air fryer could provide some sort of ease of life, right? Alleviating a chore, whatever. It creates an easier aspect of your life so that you can do other things.
Right.
What you fill that time with obviously matters. But knowing that you no longer have to spend 3 hours cooking, you can throw something in an air fryer for a few minutes or microwave it. I understand air fryers taste better, but you have options to do things to speed up your evenings. It gives you time to do other things. If people are excited, they get to have a date with their husband because of their air fryer and they're talking about it. That's obviously context. Even if they're just talking about their brand of air fryers and how it works. And there's a reason for that. They're gaining something from those conversations. It doesn't mean that they're not intellectuals. It just means that that's what you happen to hear the conversation being about.
Right.
If you were in a small town and everyone there is farming and that's the community and you're in a diner and you hear people talking about the weather and drought and the way that it's fucking dry and the nutrients in the soil isn't right and big, corporations are coming in and buying the land, that doesn't make the town not interesting. Those are real fucking problems for these people. It doesn't mean that they don't have intelligence. Could you go run those farms?
Right.
I couldn't.
No.
I don't understand what the fuck they're talking about with the nutrients in the soil.
Don't even know where I'm starting.
You can't keep a plant alive in the house, right? Like, I'm not that guy. Those guys would have a ton of shit for me to learn from. Yesterday, when we had our men's group call, we talked about the tattoo industry piloting because we have a pilot. We talked about oil because we have somebody that works in the oil field. We have somebody that does wind turbines, that repairs wind turbines. And we had conversations about all of those fields and everybody in that call learned something. And I was able to talk about the tattoo industry first. And then when we got in all those other conversations and we were done, I was like, guys, this was amazing. I would have never learned any of this in my day-to-day life because I don't have people in my day-to-day life that does this.
Right.
So I now have new information that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So this is a win for me. It's perspective.
100%.
It is perspective. You got anything else on that one? Because that puts us in an hour. We can wrap up and get ready to do the live stream.
Okay.
Or we can read this one or save this.
I want to say I'm amped up right now.
Okay.
That disgusts me. This article disgusts me. I need to mentally cool off before we.
Why did it disgust you?
The one you just had pulled up.
Oh, you're talking about the one that we didn't read?
Yeah, the one that we didn't read.
Okay, yeah, no, it disgusted me too. I don't need to.
And it made me nauseous.
Yeah. We'll do that another time then. Well, this was an hour. You
Okay.
know, so we can wrap this up. If you guys like this type of content from us, let us know in the comments. I will make sure that I come back to YouTube and read it. That way we know if we want to continue doing this. We're going to be ahead by the time that happens. So in the event that they do hate it, there'll probably be a few more episodes like this before we get the
Cool it
information to
off.
back off of it. But
Yeah.
for those of you who get to watch this on Patreon early, because I'll post this in the next day or so to Patreon, you guys tell us what you think and if this is something you want to see more of, and that way you guys can be our testers.
Yeah.
Product testers.
Yep.
So, with that being said, guys, remember you are the authors of your own life,
So grab a pen.
and we will see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.
All right.